I would say in terms of beliefs and behaviors, I would say a focus on, just to really zoom out, focus on investing in, and I have very specific ways that I do this, relationships. And the way that looks is if I do a past year review, as I'm doing right now, looking back on the past year, and I look through my calendar week by week and identify the energy giving and energy draining activities, right? Where were the peak positive and where were the peak negative, but also what types of things in my calendar drained me versus energized me. And then creating a do more of column and a do less of column. But the crux piece of that I ignored for a long time was, all right, if you have a parking lot and that parking lot has 5 to 10 slots for your most important relationships, family, closest friends, last year, did you spend as much time as you would like to with those people? If the answer is no, which it usually is, then I'm going to schedule time in advance, book and pay for things for the following year, calendar it before it gets crowded out immediately. It could be time in Montana wilderness, which was a couple of months ago, but getting all that stuff on the calendar and creating some loss aversion by, whenever possible, paying in advance, but creating a situation where it's very hard for you to cancel and get out of things. That, I think, is the facet of self-help, in quotation marks, that gets lost. If you focus on the self, the paradox of self-help is if you excessively focus on the self, it is almost inevitable that you're going to be miserable. Like, humans are not the self-sufficiency sort of mantra of self-help. If you combine it with like the rugged individualism of the US, which has a lot of upside, but if you take both of those in excess, people end up feeling very isolated. And so the investing in relationships, and I do mean investing, like really blocking out that time, in the last 5 years, that's been the single domino that tipped over, changes everything. Last thing, the third thing I'll mention, and then I'll stop my TED Talk, is
how many relationships do you manage?
I really prefer very deep relationships over a broad network.
How do you determine who you're going to give your time to?
Yeah, I'd say there are different tiers. So I do have, let's just call it, shallow is not the right word because that sounds very negative. I do have a wide network, and I just set parameters around what is allowed and what isn't allowed in those relationships that might have more of a purely business context. But at the very top, I would say I am giving the most time to people who are more than happy to call me on my bullshit, tell me my baby's ugly, whatever I might be precious about or really excited about, they're happy to tell me that it's a bad idea if it comes down to it. So that is non-negotiable. Otherwise, right, if someone's not willing to do that, raises a lot of questions about what motivations might be. Mm-hmm. Like if the emperor has no clothes, I want to know that I'm naked. Even though in the moment I might find it very annoying, right? If I'm really attached to something, but you need those people around you. It's energy in versus energy out. Because you might have somebody at a dinner party who's happy to tell you all your ideas are terrible, but that person's also terrible. Or maybe there's just something slightly off and your spider sense doesn't know what it is, can't put a finger on it, but for whatever reason, whenever you come away from them, you feel just 10% drained and you don't really want to have a second dinner with that person. I pay a lot of attention to that. I feel like language, analysis, spreadsheets, all helpful, but relative to our entire evolutionary apparatus, that's really new. So I pay a lot of attention to the millions of years of animal sensitivity. If that's, and I used to view emotion and intuition as basically kind of horseshit, for lack of a better description, like things that would always lead you astray, therefore you need structured thinking and so on, which there's a place for. But if I get a weird feeling around somebody, like I pay a lot of attention to that. Even if on paper they should be someone.
You do pay attention to intuition.
I pay more and more and more attention to it. But for decades, I was just like, yeah, look, like emotions are a liability. They can lead you astray. And in excess, that's true. But I would say in terms of determining who I'm going to spend time with, it's like, if that person calls you, do you want to pick up the phone or not?